joined by Ricardo of Kingsport.
Buenos dias, Scotty. Buenos dias, Super Talkers.
And tell me about your visit to Abington Antique Mall the other day, first of all.
Okay, so I'm on Facebook and I say, hey, I'm looking for some flooring, right, but I don't want to go to Home Depot. I want to support local businesses. Then about 4 or 5 people refer me and say, hey, check out this guy, Matt Elvis Dollar. Right? So I said, okay, cool. He happens to be over at Abington Antique Mall. I walk in, Scotty, they got 50 to 100 antique radios. I'm talking the 1900s, 1910, 1920. It's the most amazing collection. And I've been to the Henry Ford Museum, right? It's that kind of collection. And they work, right? So
nice.
Immediately, hey, man, I got to talk to somebody that works here.
So a lot of nice cabinets, old wood,
it's
refinished,
yes,
all that.
Beautiful. Even got some of the ones with the dials, the actual turn, the face down turn sundial type thing going on.
I have a Grundig from Germany from the 60s.
Yeah.
I picked up a long time ago in a garage sale down in Hendersonville, Tennessee.
Certainly. So, I like to talk, but I'm even a better listener. And so when I'm out, I gravitate toward people. Love Paul Harvey. I love storytellers, so I can always pick out good storytellers when I meet them. So I meet Matt, and we start talking, just about flooring, which I actually got from him, by the way. But he starts telling me these stories about he looks like Elvis. Sideburn, blue. Dude looks like Elvis, right? He starts telling me, hey, I'm an Elvis impersonator. And then the stories he tells me after that was amazing. I said, man, you've got to come in the radio, talk about it, let the people know, just your life story a little bit, because it's really incredible. So, I'd like to introduce you guys to Matt Elvis Dollar, and is he your loyal sidekick? Is that it? That's Alan.
Alan Show.
Thank you, Alan. So thanks for coming in, guys. So I'll kind of turn it over to you. Tell us, a little bit about the radios, where those came from, and the history there, and then, move on to about the Elvis stuff. Both those are really interesting.
Well, I own AOK Auction Company, and we done an estate out of Atkins, Virginia, which had those radios in it, and the man was a 40-year collection, and one of the largest collections I've ever seen. I've been in this with my father since I was 5 years old, and I've never seen a collection like that. And to find them that actually work, you're talking from the teens to the 1930s, and it was an amazing collection.
It really is. I go to a lot of antique stores, and I like to, if I see one, because you see a lot of antique stores, they don't have anything in them, right? Then you go buy some, and this place, besides the radios, you guys have some really, really cool stuff in there besides that. But the radios I've never seen anything like it.
No, neither have I. And we get a lot of collections. People pass on. We handle the estates for the folks, and everything from jewelry to coins to furniture.
You ought to turn it into a museum. Seriously.
Well, that was museum quality merchandise.
It really is.
No question about it.
Yeah, it certainly is. It belongs under glass, maybe.
Well, and so many times when I go to antique stores, thrift stores, flea markets, the old antique radios I find are broken.
Oh, certainly.
There's a power cord missing, some kind of issue, right?
Right.
And, boy, it's nice. It's cool that you have a lot of those older ones that are functioning.
And the sound from the speakers.
I've always said it's
rich.
Yeah, I've always said it's warm. It's kind of like a record, 33,
yeah,
45, what have you.
So
78. Somebody says, "What about 78s? That's the records I grew up on, Scotty."
Right.
How old are you, honey?
Yeah, if you think about it, in the 20s and 30s, that's all people really had to do. The radio was there before the TV, and people, you got to imagine Lone Ranger and, your local news and everything, and that's what, it's just interesting.
That's a great point, because, back then, that was a 70-inch TV.
Yes, it was.
It's right. And people from what my mom told me, would watch the radio.
Exactly.
Well, you might sit around talking, but you were watching the radio in essence.
Yes.
So, and that really, from that, I've always loved Paul Harvey, and I've always loved radio. And so that's why it's such an honor to come in here and do this with Scotty, because this is something I always dreamed of. Right. What I do is, I'm in finance. You don't get a whole lot of radio shows in finance, and to be able to do this is a blast. And so I love radio. When I walked in there, it was just like, it's like a car guy walking into an auto show, right? That type of thing.
I'm sure you guys have watched Pawn Stars, and when Rick says,
yes.
You never know what's coming through the door. That's the beauty of the auction business, because we don't know. That's what makes it fun and interesting, and we like helping people out, because a lot of people, they've got it, they don't know thing because you got the competitive bidding,
Right.
and that's that's what we
Well, I
do.
noticed a lot of gold coins in there, and I buy a lot of gold, and if I came home with those, I'd probably be a single guy right now. But I'm gonna get them. Trust me. After we close on the house, they're gonna make them a collection. So really a bunch of cool stuff. When we started talking about records and and Elvis, and that's when you started talking about what you do, Matt. And so maybe talk a little bit about what you do and how you nail
I
it.
mean, ladies and gentlemen, Matt Elvis Dollar has entered the building. Yes. Applause everywhere.
Yeah,
It's
boy.
good.
So right there, what you tell us?
What do you want to know?
Man, I want to go way back to the beginning.
Yeah, how'd you start out doing?
Your middle name is Elvis.
Elvis.
You're the only person in my entire life that has ever looked at me, and you can feel it.
Dude, yeah, doesn't it? It's for real.
Well, I definitely think everybody in this world has a calling. And, I think you probably, you've grown up to be what you are, and that's what you're always going to be. I definitely think that the day I came out of the womb, I was supposed to be Elvis. And at 5 years old, I mean, just naturally up to 5 years old, I was going around looking like this. You know what I mean?
Just like Elvis.
And all the neighbors was always telling my parents, or everybody in the neighborhood was always talking about this little kid that looks like Elvis down the street, But the day that I heard on the radio on WXBU that Elvis was coming to Johnson City, and this was March of 1976, and I was 5 years old, I was, I don't know, speechless. I mean, to know that my idol was coming to town. My dad was a hard-working guy. He's on a plumbing contracting business here in town, and really well-known, really busy. The tickets, Elvis was like the first real entertainer. You hear now of Garth Brooks selling tickets out in 6 minutes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Well, this was happening with Elvis way before Garth Brooks was born. But, we were trying to get tickets. Elvis was scheduled for one concert at Freedom Hall. The ticket sales were so good the first 20 minutes that they held him over 2 more days. Well, Elvis was going, give you a little history real quick, Elvis was going to have to end up canceling Freedom Hall. Johnson City wasn't the city it is now, so growing up. And there was nowhere for a crew of 300 people that worked for Elvis Presley to stay in one place. So there was a local guy here named Jack Trayer, and he owned Holiday Inn South, which is now the Days Inn on the Volunteer Parkway where you said you visited, right?
Yes, sir. I was there, and we'll get into that.
Okay.
For sure. Yeah.
And what happened was Joe Esposito that worked for Elvis was calling around trying to find hotel accommodations, and like I said, they were ready to cancel Freedom Hall because there was nowhere to put an orchestra and Elvis and 200 roadies and all that stuff, entourage. So Jack Trayer stepped up because he owned Holiday Inn on the Volunteer Parkway, and he agreed to let Elvis and his whole crew stay there if he would not cancel. Because then, in the 1970s, anyone who's listening knows, everybody had a picture in their house of Elvis, Jesus, and JFK.
You got it.
That's just how it was.
Wooden frame frequently, sometimes that bronze-ish gold-looking frame.
That's it, little light hanging over.
You got it.
But
and the bulb's gone.
yeah, it doesn't matter though. It's the king and the president and the Lord,
That's right.
But what was really cool was Jack Trayer went to Greyhound Bus here in Bristol, and he had every single guest in the Holiday Inn bussed out, moved to Holiday Inn North, right where the Pinnacle's sitting now, moved all the guests, gave the whole hotel to Elvis. So, this shows you what kind of power Elvis had,
And Elvis Presley stayed right there, what is now the Days Inn on the Volunteer Parkway in Bristol, Tennessee. Stayed in that suite, which I would imagine was pristine in its day.
Oh, yeah. And I have actually ended up with most of the stuff that was in that room from that time. And, me and you were talking earlier for the broadcast that, I've been working on a documentary for about 2 years now to document recreate Elvis's stay in Bristol.
I was actually at the Days Inn in the crowd the day that Matt Elvis Dollar was there filming this part of the documentary where he was dressed out in the, the full bodysuit and all the business, if you will.
The detailed recreation.
In professional wrestling, they call it living the gimmick. I mean, it is what you do. It is what you love. It is who you are.
Oh, yeah.
And for me to have been able to watch you and the other people there, I mean, it was like stepping back in time.
And we had a lot of people there that night that was there
Right.
in 1976 when I was there.
Which are good reference. If you're nailing it with them, and because they were actually there, pictures are one thing, but you should have seen it in color, as the song says.
Well, and what does it mean to you to be a part of a moment like that, to recreate something? And, frankly, not just anybody off the street can step up, grab a camera, and fill the bill on that.
Well, that particular day was a very emotional day because I was recreating something that I was a part of. It's not like, people ask me all the time about my shows, what's it feel like to be an Elvis impersonator and stuff. As much as I love Elvis, and that's why I do this, to be singing on stage and to look down and see myself as Elvis is, it's crazy.
And you see a lot of Elvis impersonators. You go, yeah, maybe I could see that, but dude, you look it. Even like he's wearing this red silk shirt that it's still like you can wear it today, but you can see Elvis wearing it. You know what I mean? So you pull this off completely, dude. Absolutely incredible.
I'm Elvis every day, but it's not that I think I'm Elvis. Okay, a lot of Elvis impersonators you talk to, they go around talking like Elvis all the time and kind of.
Right.
Kind of scary, you know what I mean?
Probably singing a few notes everywhere they go.
That's it. And what I do is just me.
Yeah, and it shows. It really isn't forced at all. And I haven't seen you, but I can't wait to check you out. So, but so what's some of the favorite shows you've done, and then maybe talk about what that led into with Honor Flight and stuff like that.
Okay. Well, I've done a lot of things. I was on Carnival Cruise Line for about 5 years. I used to be at Opryland Hotel in Nashville for 5 or 6 years.
So real quick, on the Carnival Cruise Lines, did you guys get locked into port because of any viruses, or did you
No, we didn't have anything
widespread
floating around.
illnesses or food sickness or anything like that? 'Cause I'm never going on a cruise. But go ahead.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. The movie Titanic, it just came out when I got my job on the cruise ship.
There you go.
And we were limited to instruments and stuff like that we could take, and I had my band with me, my rhythm band with me. And we were having to move our equipment from bar to bar. And saying that, I've never drank. I've never took one drink, smoked or anything, but we were moving from bar to bar on the ship, and they kept saying, "You're always carrying 2 guitar cases around." Mm-hmm. Well, the captain of the ship wanted to inspect one because I never opened it. And when he opened it, I had a raft in it. A boiled raft.
Yeah.
I saw
Prepared.
I took notes.
Yeah.
It's important to always plan ahead.
I
That's
carried
what
it with me
I
to every gig.
say. That's awesome. I know that our friend Randy Callahan, who's on this show sometimes with the Community Center of Abingdon, I know you've been over there to the Community Center at a show. I believe, did I see the Inn at Wise on your calendar?
Yes, and I actually went there yesterday and signed the contract and got that set up. The Inn at Wise is, that show is going to be April the 10th.
April 10th. Now, how long you been doing this?
42 years.
My goodness.
And I remember way back in about 1977 when Howard Brothers was on the Volunteer Parkway, one of my first painting gigs. The manager called me one Saturday morning and said, "Our band hasn't showed up and we're having a outside festival." And I hear there's a guy there named Elvis. And I was a kid, 6 years old, and I'm like, "Yeah, I'll send him out there. He'll be there." And I remember taking a bicycle with a red radio flyer wagon hooked to the back to it and hauling my sound equipment to Howard Brothers.
That's beautiful. You had that Mountain Dew and that moon pie ready when I get there.
That's it.
Classic story. Now, Matt Elvis Dollar, in addition to the Inn at Wise show April 10th, what else is on the calendar?
This Saturday, I'm going to be performing in Jenkins, Kentucky at the Jenkins High School. Doors open at 5, show starts at 6. That's a big fundraiser for the town of Jenkins. And then the 28th of this month, I'm going to be back at the Abingdon Community Center.
28th. All right. Now, the website for the Community Center of Abingdon, I'm sure we'll have more information about that
Oh yeah,
show.
yeah. Tickets are available. You can contact the Community Center of Abington for tickets.
And the website there, theccoa.org, the Community Center of Abingdon on Facebook. I'm sure you can contact them through there as well. But with these various dates, I know you have some coming up, but your history is just mind-blowing when you go back and look at the places you've been, the experiences you've had. And one particular of curiosity for us is you having had the opportunity to meet President Donald Trump along life's way.
Yeah.
And we're curious, wanting to know about that story. I think Ricardo's heard some of it, but I'm in the dark.
I've met a couple presidents, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I met Ronald Reagan also.
Well, how about that? Well, I know you met Trump through Honor Flight.
Oh, and Bill Clinton. I met him too.
is that right?
I forgot about that.
And was that through Honor Flight, or was that just being Elvis?
Just being Elvis.
Yeah. Nice.
They were actually trying to raise money to get the honor flight to Washington, and I stepped up and actually donated one of my jumpsuits to them to sell do a raffle or to auction it off to raise money. And I have made all my costumes also for like 30 years. I do all my sewing on Alan.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And I actually donated them the suit, and I think they got like $2,500 for it. And then WJHL had done a whole story about that in the Bristol Herald Courier. And then it turned into me volunteering to do a show for them, and I ended up raising enough money to get 42 Vietnam veterans to Washington. So
That's amazing.
being the, entrepreneur that I am, I sat down and wrote Donald Trump a letter and told him that I was bringing them and what had happened, sent him some pictures of my family and stuff, and next thing I know, I got a letter in the mail from Donald Trump. And it was the first time that a president had agreed to actually meet the honor flight attendees.
And now back it up a little bit. Now, you remember Elvis's visit to the White House?
Yeah, 1971, Elvis actually showed up at the White House with no appointment at the gates, demanding to see the president because he needed to be made a Federal Bureau of Narcotics agent for various reasons of traveling. And Nixon actually allowed Elvis to come into the White House, and when they got Elvis into the Oval Office, come to find out Elvis was armed with 3 handguns inside of the Oval Office. They said it was the first time a loaded handgun had been inside the Oval Office since the Lincoln administration.
That's a wonderful, wonderful
And
story.
so the president Nixon goes on to give him.
Oh yeah, all Nixon wanted was Elvis to take a picture with him. He was an Elvis fan, like everybody else. So he did that. He made sure Elvis got his badge. And after my trip was over with Trump, I ended up with a replica of the badge, which I brought to show you guys today.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It is an exact replica from the National Archives, and it says, what's that say? Eyes are not real good.
I don't have my glasses, but it seems like it says Bureau of Narcotics.
You better believe it.
Dangerous.
So U.S. official, right there it is. That's very, very neat item too. And I've seen pictures of President Nixon with the wonderful Elvis Presley.
And how cool is that of Trump to actually, have the badge made, and just the attention to detail shows he cares about people, right? Things like this, when I hear this, it just confirms what I think of, about him, as far as he really does care about normal people.
I like that.
Yeah, and I just got a note here, said, this Mr. Cotner of Kalamazoo, Michigan, have you heard of him? He's actually a guy now that they say could be Elvis.
Oh.
Yeah, and if you hear the recordings, all the Elvis is alive and stuff and everything. But my thoughts on that, and I have worked with several people through the years that was in Elvis Presley's entourage. Elvis Presley is dead. Elvis did not fake his death. Mr. Cotner is not Elvis.
Well, how old does he have to be now?
85.
85?
that I've worked with Charlie. I worked with Charlie Hodge for about 5 years, and he was the guy that actually put the scarves on Elvis at Elvis concerts. He's in every Elvis movie from G.I. Blues up.
We figured that's who Alan was.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Colonel Parker.
There you
I
go.
know a lady named Betty K. Francis. She used to be the chief engrossing clerk at the Tennessee House of Representatives down in the state capitol, and she had a scarf from Elvis Presley's visit to the Tennessee legislature framed in her office, where she had been there on the day of his attendance, and she worked there, I guess it was 4 decades. I knew her so
I have
much.
one also that Elvis gave me over at the Holiday Inn. The day at the Holiday Inn when I met Elvis, was crazy because I stood outside his door dressed in a jumpsuit made by my mother for like 3 hours, waiting on Elvis to come out. And I was terrified. I mean, I was standing there, and for about 3 hours, I was outside the door. I could hear Elvis and his buddies and his bodyguards, and they're talking and laughing, and they kept bringing food to the door, and the police kept going in and going out, and I would glance in the door, you know, and I thought, man, I'm going to ask Elvis this, and I'm going to tell Elvis this, and tell him what I do. Next thing I know, the door opens. First thing I saw was the barrel of a shotgun.
Ouch.
Now I know who the guys were. It was the Memphis Mafia, you know. They were all armed and badged and everything.
Taking care of the man.
That's
The
it.
Rolling Stones, Hell Angels.
And when Elvis walked out the door, I was like speechless, you know. I didn't know what to say. And after 3 hours of planning what I was going to say to the guy, I couldn't say nothing.
Froze up.
And the police chief at the time was our neighbor. And he said, Elvis, this is the kid named Elvis we told you about. And Elvis got down on his knee like as close as I am to this microphone, you know. And he said, your mom and dad must love you a lot to let you be dressed up like that.
On Facebook, Matt Elvis Dollar, if you would like for him to perform at one of your events in Northeast Tennessee, Southwest Virginia, or beyond, contact him. And Matt, we appreciate you being here very much. Again, that's Matt Elvis Dollar. Have yourself a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you. It's 8:29, Super Talk 92.9.
We're filling out your news bracket.